Session to order at 5:30 p.m. If I could please get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United. Thank you, everybody. That'll move us directly into roll call. Present.
Present.
Hank Beinecker,
Here.
Bill Campbell,
Here.
Dave Malay,
Present.
Jesse Camacho, Jennifer Morton.
Present.
Let the record show the following staff in attendance: City Manager Albert Tripp, Director of Public Works Catherine Miller, and Finance Director Tara Moses.
All right, thank you. Any additions to tonight's agenda? Or actually, I should say Jesse's not here right now. Earlier, I thought he said he was gonna come, but goes up, he does. All right, what would we like to do about Mr. Camacho's absence?
Move to excuse, please.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously. That'll move us on to tonight's agenda. No changes, Mr. Tripp?
No proposed changes.
All right, and then we do have an executive session called for this evening. Council, what would you like to do about tonight's agenda?
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do you have a second? All right, thank you, Mr. Malay. Any questions or comments on tonight's agenda? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously, and that'll move us on to, don't see any announcements or presentations for this evening. Council reports. Betty?
Just an update from the Finance Committee meeting. It may come up later in staff reports as we progress through our budgeting cycle. The main elements that came up, basically in a nutshell, as we've heard before, tax revenue has been into stagnation and plateauing, where expenses continue to grow. So the directive to departments has been to take last year's entire departmental budget totals and keep that as is for 2025, and then make rearrangements and cuts within, but not to exceed what was budgeted for the entire department last year, which may be a challenge. Other kind of good news, and we got the final report from Mr. Becker about our IT needs, and basically we can carve out and have a new position that'll be for Bill in-house tasks to save us money with Cycrest, and still keep them as a IT provider for the major needs, and not until you can large enough to have an entire IT department. Benefits with that, not only as an in-house person for the day-to-day needs, but also improving communication to manage fully the website up to date and timely there, help out with these meetings. I've pressed for better just communication and public outreach, or in terms of just transparency, that these Zoom meetings can be just tied to a city YouTube channel, be automatically public, and go live on our website, et cetera, without having to be asked for. So those are the kind of the main elements that came out of it.
I just wanted to make mention of an article that I read in the stream. The title's it really captures your attention. It said that, Airway Heights budget's 2.9 million in the red, but as confirmed with our esteemed finance director, they're very preliminary numbers. I trust that we'll get presented, or the council will be presented, a balanced budget. Yeah. So this article, as scary as it looks, don't take that, I guess take it with a grain of salt. They're preliminary, and that's not going to be the budget.
Anything else? And you good? Yeah, and to add on to that for Hank, yeah, these numbers are, if we could give Airway Heights the world, every single thing that we would want or wish within our community is within this initial budget. From there, we kind of just have to dive into it and get rid of the things that are just they're not feasible at this time, or, really once we start to pack down the budget, and get more realistic on stuff, it's going to be it's super important for us to go through this, because that way we also get to know our needs and, some of the wants from each different department. There's stuff that comes up every year that we wish that we could fund. Sometimes they got to be pushed back a couple of years before they're ever funded. So if ever. And sometimes we have a lot of stuff that comes out throughout the year that, will be, we had boilers blow out in the rec center. We had a lot of other stuff that happened that's, non-budgeted expenses that, kind of roll over as well. So these are all things that we deal with every year. It's something that we deal with, but our finance team, Mr. Tripp, does an amazing job of working with our department heads to weed everything out. And at the start of the new year, we will present a balanced budget for the community, for sure. So with that, I don't have anything else on top of that. Yes, nope. Staff reports.
Albert?
I'll just echo what Councilmember Bonneker and Chair Bowman just mentioned in reference to the budget. The initial first blush is very much preliminary in nature. And I would liken it to a home budget in the sense of just like a home budget never stays static, in the sense of things are always breaking, pipes needs repairs, so on and so forth. Such is the case with the city in the sense of the services it provides. The community doesn't stay static in terms of population and demand and services. And so the initial preliminary budget we put together is designed to take that into account. And then, of course, as we step through the process like we're doing to tonight, it's also designed to be realistic about what the available means and resources you have to work with. But at the end of the day, as both of you alluded to, we'll present like a balanced budget, and it'll be within the context of what the community, resources they have available. But it affords us an opportunity to take a look at the landscape and identify all the needs that are out there, and then think about them in a prioritized manner, such that when opportunities are better, we can address those, then we're able to do so. And tonight we'll continue that conversation with another update on the budget, which is reflective of the flat perspective for 2026.
Mr. Gibbons?
No report. Thank you.
Catherine?
No report, thank you.
And I have no report.
Okay, I'm gonna move us into public hearing, 2026 property tax levy revenue.
So the purpose of this hearing is a taxing district shall hold a public hearing on revenue sources for the following year current expense budget per RCW 84.55.120. For those of you who want to read it in full, Hank, you may do so. The hearing must include consideration of possible increases in property tax revenues, and the hearing shall be held prior to the time the city levies the property taxes. Our property tax levy request is due to the county by November 30th. So tonight is our first public hearing on revenue sources that will be followed by November 3rd's preliminary budget, November 17th's final budget read, and we hope to adopt our budget by December 1st. That is our goal. The current expense fund budget position estimate for 2026 as of today, the estimated revenues are $14,590,000. You'll see this came down from what we presented 2 weeks ago, because 2 weeks ago it included projected grant and contract revenue, which we have since made the decision to pull those out and show them in a separate fund, so that the current expense fund will represent the ongoing obligations of the city year over year and not be skewed by the ups and downs of grant and contract revenue. And as alluded, the proposed expenditures right now are equal to revenues at the $14,590,000. We are projecting no dip into reserves at this time, nor build up of reserves at this time, a flat budget. What we will be asking the council to decide on, not tonight, but to start thinking about it, is the property tax levy. It's the only tax that we actually have an opportunity to adjust. Everything else is just by default comes to us. Initiative I-747, voters adopted this initiative in 2001, and it limits the local regular property tax levies to 1% per year. This applies to the total regular tax levy receipts and not the amount paid by individual property owners if you're trying to do your own math. Just public service announcement there. When we look at our property tax levy, we get from the county the assessed value of all property in the city of Airway Heights. The 2025 value was 1,189,000,000. I'm rounding. The 26 value is currently at 1,206,000,000, which is a change of 17.6 million from the previous year, approximately 1.5%. The property tax levy year over year from 23 through 25. In 23, we had the regular levy at 1.5 million. The 26 bond levy, which is for the rec center, at 700,000, for a total of 2.2 million was our levy. In 2024, the regular levy was 1.6 million. We had the same bond levy for the rec center at 700,000, and we added the 2023 bond levy, which is the public safety building, for just shy of 430,000, for a total of 2.8 million. In 2025, property tax levy was 1.7 million for the regular levy. We had the 26 bond levy still, the 23 bond levy, and we added the levy lid lift in 2025 for 1.1 million. So the total levy was 3.9 million in 2025. Going into 2026, we will have all those same levies, the regular levy, the 2016 and 23 bond levies, as well as the levy lid lift. But what we have the opportunity to make a decision on is the regular levy. And what the city is recommending to the council is to take that 1%, which equates to just $17,000 increase in property taxes to our community. If we don't take the 1%, a 0% change doesn't mean we're at the same levy as last year, because property tax values do go up, as well as we add new values for new construction. So if we have a 0% change, the impact of dollars is $3.47. But if we do the 1%, the impact each homeowner or property owner is 3.48 cents. So minimal impact, but given our budget, I do recommend taking the 1% so that we can continue to offer the services that we've committed to the community. Other sources of revenue in the current expense fund, retail sales and use tax makes up 3 million. We just talked about the property tax and the levy lid lift. Those are about 4 million together. B&O taxes total about 3 million. And those are the main revenue sources outside of fines, permits, and rec center fees. Any questions?
All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 5:43 p.m. Thank you for the brief on this, and on the floor is your guys's for comments, and if there's anybody from in attendance who would like to address this matter, address council at this time, raise your hand or please let us know. Right. Not seeing any. And then Mr. Tripp, do you have anything to add to this? Because
Separate and apart, at the finance committee meeting, we had some conversations about bank capacity, and those are represents instances where the city has not taken the 1% that's allowed by state law. And so we do have that information available to the council, you know, should you want to use that as part of your deliberation as it relates to this proposed measure. Apart from that, tonight's mainly to introduce pursuant to that RCW that Tara mentioned earlier, and then represent the first reading tonight. It's followed by 2 additional readings before the council is asked to act upon a proposed property tax ordinance, which will then be forwarded to Spokane County assessors.
yeah, and this is something that on my almost 10 years on council, we've chosen a couple years where we haven't taken it. And, depending on what was going on in the community, especially during COVID, there was a lot of stuff that we deliberated on, and we really tried to take into account, the people's fiscal, the hits to their families and whatnot. So, this is definitely something, it's one of the only things out or taxes out there that is like Ms. said, it's one of those things that you can't, that it's capped. We can't just do an unlimited, hey, we're gonna add 5% this year, 10% this year because we need it, you know, but year to year, these taxes do not meet even the 1% gain that we're allowed to take. So it's something that, you know, we think very, very carefully on. And, you know, I would recommend as well that we take it, because if we don't, year after year, we're only going to be putting ourselves behind and more behind and more behind. And it's not much. I mean, to the typical homeowner, you know, just a few dollars, $17,000, you know, or a little bit over $17,000 total for the city, for the complete, for the total gain. It's not much. And if we don't take it year after year, we are only going to shoot ourselves in the foot. So that's the only thing that I wanted to say about it. We do think about this often. It comes up every single year, and you know, yeah, just one of those things that, you know, we either take it and we hope that we can play a little bit of catch up elsewhere, or we don't take it and then we're playing a lot of catch up. So anything else from council? All right, if there's nobody else who would like to address council, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 5:47 PM. Thank you. And move us into our consent agenda. Item A is the request for the approval of minutes from October 6th, the approval of minutes from October 14th. And then item C is the request and approval of the accounts payable register in the amount of $517,279.64. Council, what would we like to do about tonight's consent agenda?
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, I have a second. Any questions or comments? And did you get who was the second on that? Ms. Martin? Okay. All right, no questions? All those in favor? And that passed unanimously. That moves us on into our action items for this evening. Item D is going to be the City Council Ad Hoc Committee assignments. Mr. Tripp, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair and council, this evening, you're scheduled to consider an amendment to the various council committees, both internal and external, that the city council serves upon. Last week at the study session meeting, council member Campbell had an opportunity to look at some of the vacancies and identify those of interest to himself. At that meeting, council member Camacho, he was not in attendance, so he didn't have a chance to weigh in on the list here. But we've updated the list to reflect those that council member Campbell expressed interest in, to include the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee. As you can see on that particular sheet, there are two previous members, Kevin Ritchie and Veronica Messing, both who were on the council, who left the council earlier this year. Those were struck through. And so with Mr. Campbell proposing to join that would give that committee 2 representatives. Additionally, Councilmember Campbell expressed interest in joining the Spokane Transit Authority and Spokane Transit Performance Monitoring and External Relations Committee as well. Those were the changes flowing from last week's study session. But one last thing I just wanted to bring your attention to before turning it back to you is a vacancy on the Spokane Community Development Block Grant Committee. This is the one that yourself, Mr. Chair, had an opportunity to serve on. It's a three-year appointment, and that has now ended. And so the Spokane County is seeking to determine, you know, if you'll be continuing on in that particular role or if another council member will be serving on it.
When do they require notice for that one?
So for that particular one, they have a separate application process. And if the council said tonight that you would continue on in it, then we would start fill out that application again, resubmit it. And then from that particular point, the commission would appoint you, the BOCC would appoint you back to it. And then it'd be 3 years from that appointment date.
Okay, well, I mean, for now, if council doesn't mind, I'd stay on that one. Buddy, have any objections to that? Okay, yeah, I'll remain on that one, and then kind of throughout this next year, depending on what develops, we'll readdress. And then also, I know that we have a couple members that are no longer going to be with us after you're gonna be out there instead of here. I got you. So, yeah, we're having a couple members who are not running again. So, but we have some. I don't know where you're going. So, but yeah, so I think we're gonna have to re-engage this anyways in January and, you know, divvy up the responsibilities for the different committees and whatnot. So, with that, I would like to readdress, you know, some of these things. I absolutely tonight, let's go ahead and pass, you know, the committees that, you know, you would like to be on. Definitely. And then we'll have to readdress everything in January. So, all right, with that being said, council would like to do about item D, with the nominations for committee selections that Mr. Tripp presented.
Move to approve the committee assignments presented for Mr. Campbell.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Martin. All right, I'm motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously. Move us on to item D, or item E is going to be the water reclamation plant SCADA upgrades. Ms. Miller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council. Yes, item number E is actually a low bid award is what we're looking to approve tonight to Power City Electric. We had 5 initial companies look at the bids. At the end of the day, what they chose to do was basically combined efforts. We had 2 of the companies of the 5 turned in sub bids to Power City. They chose one of those for their sub as they went through. Another bidder came in to be a supplier for the project. The ultimate bid was just slightly under engineer's estimate. We had our engineer who did the design do a full responsive bid review and felt that this was a very responsive bid. So tonight we are seeking approval of the low bid as well as approval for my signature on the contract to move it forward. We will be putting a 5% administration reserve aside for the project as well.
All right, and then can you go through how much and where it's coming from?
No problem. So the low bid is $1,062,848.46. We'll put a 5% administrative reserve on that at $53,142 for a total of not to exceed $1,115,990.46. This will be immediately paid through a ecology loan, which is a low interest loan. Will pay over 20 years, about a 2.5% interest on that.
All right. Well, thank you. Council, what would you like to do about the water reclamation plant SCADA upgrades?
Catherine, did that bid really have 46 cents?
It really did. An
And-
engineer's estimate also had 60 cents.
All right then.
Hey,
We are engineers after all.
they were thinking about taxes. No.
I mean, it's over $1 million. You got 46 cents on it, really? Okay,
That's really good accounting.
yeah.
Every penny.
I
All
did,
right.
I did round up on my 5%, just so you know. There's no pennies there.
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Wow, Mr. Campbell for the win. Quick draw. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right. Passed unanimously. Then moves on to item F with technology system upgrades. Mr. Tripp, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair and Council, I would ask that you table this particular item. I apologize, it made it in your packet inadvertently, but our discussion of it last week was just designed to be an overview and update of what's progressing towards your agenda. We still have some additional work. We're trying to bring the cost down, and we're trying to also ensure that the investments made, see how far we can get as far as buying more technology with it. So you probably anticipated at your next Monday study session to be on the agenda, then your first meeting in November for action.
Okay. Everybody good with that? All right, it is so tabled. Thank you. Move us on to ordinance, item G, which is the first read of ordinance C-110 franchise agreement with Forge Fiber 37 LLC. Now, I do apologize for not being here, Mr. Tripp, but I do have a question on that when I seen it in my agenda package. Before, when we had the company that was going to put in fiber optics and whatnot within the local area, we were worried about, you know, it being passed around kind of like a pinball machine, you know, and we actually put some things in place previously, so that way the council is notified and that way these contracts cannot just go to whoever they want. They can't be either subcontracted out or something else. Can't just, so we put those reasonable measures in there, and I know I got a call from a CEO a bunch of times on this. Now, is that the reason why we're seeing this evening is because we put those measures into place, or is this just one of those things that it's a new contract?
It's the latter. The measures that the chair is referring to is with a different company. But the concern was at the time, if that particular company decided to transition away from the use of the franchise agreement and sublet to someone else, would the city council have a consideration of say in that process, or would it be as referenced in, I think the proposed language, which was the Washington State Utility Commission would have the say? And so we added language in there wherein they would have to give notice to the city, and then the city council would consider it. I think the language even stated that the council's action upon it would not be unreasonably withheld, but I think the intent of the council was just to receive notice and have an opportunity to review it prior to it. And so that language was added. But in this particular case, this is a different company. I think with a different operating model and slightly different technology than Ziply Fiber was in the previous instance.
Did they just not fulfill? Or did they not have the means of providing fiber optics throughout the city, or what was the?
Yeah, I can't say. So what happened, essentially when we were negotiating that agreement, we were communicated to that they were going to maintain the franchise and provide the service. The city moved forward with it, you authorized it, and then I think about 6 months later, we received notice that they'd sold the franchise to someone else. So it lives on just through a different company, and that's the part that we really have no control over, as long as they're meeting the terms of the agreement.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, it's the first reading, so.
-1100 franchise agreement with Forge Fiber 37 LLC. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Airway Heights, County of Spokane, Washington, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Forged Fiber 37 LLC to construct, maintain, operate, replace, and repair a telecommunications system in, across, over, along, under, through, and below certain designated public rights-of-way of the City of Airway Heights, Washington for a 10-year term.
All right, with this, it is going to be a first read. When are we gonna see this back for a second read?
Correct. You'll have it again on your Monday study session. Then it'll be back for a second reading on the first Monday in November.
Okay. All right. Good on that? Okay. We'll go ahead and move to the first read of item H, which is ordinance C-1101, CHIP GFC waiver. Ms. Miller, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chair, just prior to the reading on that, just a quick note that due to the timing on this one, we're asking the city council to suspend its rules and consider taking action on the first reading of this as opposed to having a second reading in November. That would allow for the applicant to get the application in and have the ordinance to be in place to support it.
Okay, time sensitive. Okay. All right, Ms. Miller, the floor is yours.
GSCs are for city tenants, that they're looking at outsourced also state legislation is carved out that cities to allow them to may choose to have a waiver but no action. We're recommending that city that do not participate in that main statement. We would have been request that if there are any waivers that you'd like to or grants that was waived this implementation. We're working with both of the frameworks to get that money through pay one. Have this for the city police, so we can report back to each staff that we have before that. Strong troops will be fully responsible.
Okay. All right, and would you like to read that into,
Ordinance C-1101, an ordinance of the city of Airway Heights, Washington, adding sections to chapter 13.14 to implement the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure Program and other matters properly related thereto.
all right, thank you. I'll go ahead and bring a motion forward to suspend the rules to pass this under a first read. First. Second, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? All right, the rules have been suspended. And then with this, council, what would we like to do?
Move to approve.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously. Welcome. All right, and then that'll move us on to item I, which is going to be the first read of ordinance C-1102, 2026 property tax levy. Ms. Moses, the floor is all yours.
Ordinance number C-1102, an ordinance of the city of Airway Heights, Washington, fixing the amount of property taxes to be levied for the year 2026 and providing for the effective date thereof.
Right.
And this was as discussed in the public hearing.
Okay, and then we'll see this one back, same thing as the first one. Okay, all right. Moving on to resolutions, item J is resolution 2025-024, establishing a volunteer program. Mr. Tripp, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Chair and Council. We discussed and introduced the proposed resolution during last Tuesday's meeting, which would involve adopting a volunteer program. We noted during that presentation that many cities and counties have recognized the value and advantage of utilizing the skills of its community members in a volunteer capacity to help with the quality of life within a community. The creation of such a program, a volunteer program, though, is done by the city council, and the mechanism for doing so is through a resolution, which is why it's proposed here this evening. That gives the council the ability to be able to not only identify the type of volunteer opportunity, but who serves on it, the length of appointment, and the scope of their particular services. Another thing that we talked about last Tuesday was transitions that are scheduled to happen on the council. Transitions perhaps that are not as permanent as what was alluded to earlier, but we also know that Councilmember Malay, Councilmember Beinecker are both scheduled to transition off of the council at the end of the year because they're not rerunning for their seat. Councilmember Beinecker, he's had an opportunity to serve specifically on several different instances. He's been a representative of the Fairchild Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board and the West Plains PFAS Response Task Force. He's also consistently attended and participated in numerous PFAS meetings, including those held by EPA, Fairchild Air Force Base, the West Plains Water Coalition, and he's been an advocate before the Board of Spokane County Commissioners, recommending and asking for support relative to water quality and water availability issues on the West Plains. This resolution that you have before you tonight is twofold in that it asks that the City Council consider creating a formal volunteer program, and then secondly, that it also considers appointing Mr. Hank Beinecker to serve as a volunteer to the City Council on the PFAS, for specifically PFAS, P4 related matters, with an effective date of January 1, 2026.
Go ahead.
Resolution 2025-024, establishing a volunteer program. A resolution of the city of Airway Heights, Washington, adopting a volunteer program and other matters properly related thereto.
All right, thank you, council. What would we like to do about item J?
Move to approve.
Motion, do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Morton. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, and passed unanimously. Thank you much. So I don't see anything in here for the Transportation Benefit District. At this time, if there's anybody in the crowd who would like to address council as a citizen or online, just please raise your hand. And I don't think we had any signups on the list, right? Oh, okay. But yeah, at this time, if you'd like to move forward to the podium and address council, it's open. No, going once, going twice. All right. No call for a workshop, but we do have an executive session, and I'm assuming that we will adjourn after the executive session. So
If that is what council would like to do, that works for us. No action will be requested. The purpose of the executive session is to just discuss with legal counsel current or potential litigation, and it should be 30 minutes.
all right, so we'll go ahead and break into executive session at 6:10 PM for 30 minutes. Give us 4 minutes to get down there. And
Gonna stay here or no?
yeah, we can just stay here.
You can
All right.
just boot everybody else out.
Yeah.
Why didn't you speak, Krista? We wanted to hear
I was
from you.
gonna say, it's been a long time since.
You could have given us a really nice speech.
It's been a while. Hey, good move on that one though. Stay involved.
That's when I thought I was out.
Yeah. You never truly. Yeah.
No, I asked Albert, I said, isn't there a path that we can kind of put together, you know? So that I can still, because I'm knee deep in these meetings and all this stuff, you know?